Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region and the rest of the world. I am Tanvi Taneja. Our top stories first. US welcomes Israel's latest efforts to allow more humanitarian aid into Gaza. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says success would be measured in results. Situation around the Ukraine's eastern city of Chasiv are tense. Ukrainian military denies that Russian forces had entered the suburbs of Chasiv, asserts intense fighting underway. And Reserve Bank of India keeps interest rates unchanged at 6.5% for the 7th consecutive time. RBI governor says focus on aligning inflation to the target. Task not finished yet. As the Israel-Hamas conflict nears 6 months now, US President Joe Biden has warned Israel of policy changes if Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu failed to protect civilians and aid workers in Gaza. This move comes as Israel is facing international condemnation after its strike hit World Central Kitchen that resulted in the death of few aid workers. Biden relayed his message in a telephonic call with Israeli Prime Minister on Thursday. Meanwhile, Israel has concluded its investigation into the incident, dismissing 2 senior officers with stern warnings.
Between Prime Minister Netanyahu and Joe Biden, real tension between the two leaders, real frustration on the US side, the feeling that the Israeli government was simply not listening to its largest ally. And that tension, that frustration, that rift between the two leaders has been building up for weeks, and that is why we've culminated to this point where Joe Biden, the US president, effectively giving his Israeli counterpart and the Israeli government an ultimatum, saying that they have to do more to allow aid to the Gaza Strip. They have to do more to prevent civilian deaths, or US support, US military support, US diplomatic support could be reduced and weapons deliveries could be conditioned by the United States. We know that other allies, including the UK, have had similar concerns about breaches of international law by Israel in Gaza, and that their support may also diminish as a result of these allegations. So clearly pressure that the Israeli government says it has heard and responded to. We understand that the War Cabinet and the Israeli government have approved measures to allow more humanitarian aid to Gaza, including the reopening of the Erez checkpoint, which is a checkpoint at the northern end of the Gaza Strip. It's about an hour south of where I'm speaking to you from as well. And they will also allow humanitarian aid to flow in through the port of Ashdod, which is very close to the Gaza Strip and would facilitate aid going in. So clearly a lot of pressure and frustration from the US and a shift in position from the Israelis.
So that was our correspondent Alex Cadier reporting from Tel Aviv. Now, whether it is due to the US warning or a mere coincidence, the Israeli government has approved a series of steps to increase the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's security cabinet has agreed to reopen the Erez crossing into northern Gaza and the temporary use of Ashdod port in southern Israel. In addition to this, the cabinet also agreed to increase Jordanian aid through the Kerem Shalom crossing point located in southern Gaza. The United States welcomed it, saying the success would be measured in results in improving the situation on the ground.
What we're looking to see in the days and weeks ahead is prioritization, surging humanitarian assistance, sustaining it, getting it to people who need it, making sure that those who are providing it are safe and secure, and maximizing every effort to protect civilians, those who are caught in this crossfire Hamas is making. We just can't have so many people caught in that crossfire, killed, injured, going forward.
And our correspondent Sarah Coates now joins us with more from Tel Aviv. Sarah, when can we expect the new aid routes to be implemented on the ground?
Hello there, Tanvi. We are hearing now from a number of IDF sources that the Kerem Shalom crossing will actually facilitate some 100 trucks coming from Jordan over the weekend, which would be the first time that this has happened on a weekend, being Shabbat is tomorrow, which is a fairly holy day for Jews. Now, it's really necessary, obviously, that this aid gets in, with groups saying that people in the Gaza Strip are on the brink of famine. In the north, there has been a report from Oxfam that people are surviving on as little as 245 calories per day. That's around the same as a can of beans. Now, we do have a new development for you, Tanvi, and that is that the IDF is dismissing 2 officers. They were involved in this strike Monday night on that World Central Kitchen convoy, which killed those 7 foreign aid workers. A number of other soldiers are receiving discipline. The military says that this strike was ordered by officers who suspected these aid workers were actually Hamas militants, but they did have a very low level of intelligence when they actually ordered this strike. So, of course, this has really changed things on the ground. It's really pushed the Biden administration to order Israel to open up these entry points to get more vital aid into the Gaza Strip. And, of course, when you think about it from the view of these aid groups, they have now withdrawn. They've stopped their operations in the Strip. The World Central Kitchen, over the last 3 weeks, it has provided 600 tons of aid to these Palestinians in Gaza, which is a lot, really, just given the little that has been going in. And one of these ships that was laden up with a couple of 100 tons of humanitarian aid, it has since been turned back around and is now in Cyprus. So certainly it's had dire consequences on the ground, Tanvi.
Worrying indeed. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah Coates joining us from Tel Aviv. Now, in another attempt to expedite the process of hostage release, the US CIA Director, Bill Burns, is likely to travel to Cairo this weekend, as per reports. During his visit, he will meet his Egyptian and Israeli counterparts and the Qatari Prime Minister, trying to reach a breakthrough in talks on releasing hostages held by Hamas. Now, staying in the region, my colleague Ollie Barrett from London takes it from here and gives us more on the rising tensions between Israel and Iran. Ollie, over to you now.
Thank you, Tanvi. Yes, that's right. Those tensions in the region as a result of the recent airstrike on Iran's embassy compound in the Syrian capital, Damascus. Israel hasn't claimed responsibility for that attack, but Iran's leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has blamed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for it. Israeli authorities also believe that Iran may conduct a retaliatory attack as soon as Friday, since Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi said earlier that the strike on their capital would not go unanswered. Meanwhile, GPS is being blocked across large parts of Israel in order to disrupt missiles and drones amid those tensions with Iran. The Israel Defense Forces also announced that it was halting all leave for soldiers serving with the combat units. This comes a day after reservists were called up to bolster air defense units. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, meanwhile, has said that Tehran has been working against us directly and through its proxies.
For years, Iran has been working against us directly and through its proxies, and therefore Israel is working against Iran and its proxies, both defensively and offensively. We will know how to defend ourselves, and we will act according to the simple principle that whoever hurts us or plans to hurt us, we will hurt them.
Next to Ukraine, where the situation in the eastern city of Chasiv Yar remains tense. Russian forces claimed to have entered the city on Friday. The Ukrainian military says it is in a very difficult situation on the battlefield, but denied reports that Russian troops had reached the suburbs. Chasiv Yar, located around 10 kilometers west of Bakhmut, has served as an important staging point for Ukrainian troops and is now heavily fortified. DD India's Megumi Lim sent us this report from Kiev.
Well, according to the Russian news agency RIA, which cited an advisor to a Russian-appointed regional head, Moscow's forces had entered the suburb of Chasiv Yar in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region. But a spokesman for Ukraine's Eastern Command said although the situation there was very difficult and that the fighting was continuing, he said Russian forces had not entered. Moscow's troops have been trying to seize the entire Donetsk and Luhansk regions, parts of which are currently occupied by Russia. And Ukrainian military officials have said that Chasiv Yar, if captured, would likely become a staging ground for a Russian advance towards Kostyantynivka, Kramatorsk, and Slovyansk. Ukrainian troops are continuing to face critical shortages of weapons and ammunition while a $60 billion military aid package is being held up in the U.S. Congress. Ukrainian President Zelensky said that without this additional military aid, his troops will have to retreat step by step. Meanwhile, an intelligence source cited in a Reuters report said Ukraine attacked Russia's Morozovsk military airbase in the Rostov region overnight, destroying 6 Russian warplanes. The joint operation was reportedly carried out by the SBU security service and military. Russia's defense ministry said its air defense system had downed 53 Ukrainian drones overnight, most of them over the Rostov region. Ukraine has stepped up its drone attacks against targets deep inside Russia in recent weeks, especially against oil refineries in an aim to cripple Russia's oil revenue. Megumi Lim in Kiev reporting for DD India.
Meanwhile, Russia has lashed out at Sweden's plans to set up a NATO base in the Baltic, a day after it described relations with NATO as sliding to the level of direct confrontation. According to a Russian news agency which quoted the foreign ministry, the Swedish move is described as a provocation that could turn the sea into an area of geopolitical confrontation. The ministry said that this would increase risks for shipping in the Baltic. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is defending his government's bill to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda. In an interview, Rishi Sunak has defended his approach to tackling small boats crossing the English Channel and suggested the UK might be willing to leave the European Convention on Human Rights if it blocked his Rwanda policy.
I am determined to stop the boats. And that's why the Rwanda scheme is so important. If you come to our country illegally, you won't be able to stay and we will be able to return you. Either to your home if it's safe, but if not, to a safe alternative, and that's where Rwanda comes in. Now that's why I'm doing everything I can to get this bill through Parliament so that we can start sending people to Rwanda. And once we can get that done, you will see that people stop coming because it won't be worth their while paying anybody.
Here in England, senior doctors on Friday have voted to accept a new pay deal from the government, ending a long-running pay dispute and industrial action. The British Medical Association trade union said 83% of its members voted in favour of the offer on a 62% turnout. Some consultants will therefore get a pay rise of nearly 20% for the financial year just ending and will be eligible for another pay rise for the year ahead as well. It doesn't completely end strike action in the health service though. Junior doctors in England remain in dispute with the government over pay and conditions. And that's it from me here in London for now. Tanvi, back to you.
Thank you so much, Ollie, and I have to say happy Friday to you. That was Ollie Barrett, our colleague, joining us from London. You're watching DD India Global. Still to come on the show. US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen raises alarm bells over the global economic fallout from China's excess manufacturing capacity. And could you imagine solar panels in space could beam power down to Earth? Well, a UK startup has achieved the breakthrough.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Land of Shivaji Maharaj goes to polls in 5 phases. In a race where local politics hold more sway than the national narrative, Maharashtra witnesses a chaotic election unlike any it has seen before. How will the regional satraps hold their ground in this election that could be a game changer to their fortunes? Join us in the battle for Maharashtra on the Great Indian Election at 8:30 p.m. IST and 1500 hours GMT. Only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. Back to India. The country's central bank, the Reserve Bank of India, on Friday kept the short-term lending rate or the repo rate unchanged at 6.5% for the 7th consecutive time. Announcing the current fiscal year monetary policy, RBI Governor Shaktikant Das said that headline inflation has eased to 5.1% during January and February 2024 from the earlier peak of 5.7% in December 2023. He noted that the focus is on aligning inflation to the target, for which the task is not finished yet. The Reserve Bank has meanwhile retained real GDP growth forecast for 2024-25 at 7%. Here are the RBI Governor's 5 observations about the Monetary Policy Committee outcomes.
Inflation is moderating and the GDP growth is robust. Number 2, the Monetary Policy Committee remains focused on aligning inflation to the target on a durable basis. We derive satisfaction from the progress made under disinflation, but the task is not yet finished. Number 3, the financial sector continues to be stable. Number 4, external sector also continues to be resilient. Number 5, as we move towards RBI at 100, the Reserve Bank will continue to focus on preserving financial stability and promoting a financial sector and a payment system that is robust, resilient, and future ready.
Concerns are growing over the global economic fallout from China's excess manufacturing capacity. The US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said this on Friday. China is too large to export its way to rapid growth and would benefit by reducing excess industrial capacity, which is pressuring other economies, Yellen said in remarks to the American Chamber of Commerce in Guangzhou.
I believe addressing overcapacity and, more generally, considering market-based reforms is in China's interest. China is too large to export its way to rapid growth. And if policies are oriented only at generating supply and not also at generating demand, global spillovers will result.
And now we get you up to speed on the world's largest democratic elections in India. So with the Indian elections just a fortnight away, the campaigning by different political parties have reached their crescendo. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in India's largest geographical state, Rajasthan, where he held a rally in the city Churu. Addressing the voters, Prime Minister Modi asserted that the promises made by the ruling party have always been fulfilled, unlike other political parties. The main contest is between the BJP and the Congress party in Rajasthan. Rajasthan has 25 seats in the lower house of parliament.
भाजपा जो कहती है वो जरूर करती है। दूसरी पार्टियों की तरह भाजपा केवल घोषणा पत्र नहीं जारी करती, हम तो संकल्प पत्र लेकर के आते हैं। 2019 में हमने जो संकल्प पत्र जारी किया था, उसके ज्यादातर संकल्प पूरे हो चुके हैं और 2 साल कोविड के संकट के बावजूद भी मोदी ने आपको जो वादा किया था, वो वादा पूरा करने के लिए एड़ी चोटी का जोर लगा दिया है।
On the other hand, India's opposition party, the Congress, released its manifesto for the upcoming general elections in New Delhi today, highlighting the 5 pillars of justice in their manifesto titled Nyay Patra. The party promised 25 guarantees to the voters of the country. The 3 themes of the manifesto include work, wealth and welfare. The document also stated jobs and education to the people, and the release event was attended by Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge along with leaders Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi and P. Chidambaram among others.
हमारा ये घोषणा पत्र देश के राजनीतिक इतिहास में न्याय के दस्तावेज के रूप में याद किया जाएगा। राहुल जी के नेतृत्व में चली भारत जोड़ो न्याय यात्रा में 5 पिलर्स पर ध्यान केंद्रित किया गया था। यात्रा के दौरान युवा न्याय, किसान न्याय, नारी न्याय, श्रमिक न्याय और हिस्सेदारी न्याय की घोषणा की गई थी। जहां कहीं भी हम गए, इन न्याय की बात हमने करी थी और इसकी गारंटी भी हमने दी है।
And now we take a look at other stories making news around the world. In a first of its kind, a UK startup has said that its power beaming technology could provide cheap, reliable energy source the Earth needs by harvesting solar power in space 24 hours a day. The concept requires solar panels similar to those used on Earth, but in orbit to turn sunlight into electricity, which is then converted to microwaves to be beamed from space to an Earth station connected to the local grid. Tens of millions of dollars in cash was reportedly stolen in a massive heist on Easter Sunday at a money storage facility in the San Fernando Valley in California. The money was stolen after thieves broke into through the roof without setting off alarms. The FBI and local police are investigating the heist. A dazzling, custom-bound, signed first edition of Truman Capote's renowned Breakfast at Tiffany's will debut at the New York Book Fair. The 64th edition of the New York Book Fair at the Park Avenue Armory in New York will be from April 4th to 7th, coinciding with the 75th anniversary of the Antiquarian Booksellers Association of America. An animal lover in Turkey's capital Ankara has built a train out of plastic barrels attached an ATV to give rides to the disabled dogs she cares for at a shelter in Ankara. She takes the dogs for a ride every day so that they can see the world around them and feel the breeze in their fur. What a positive move and a positive story there. That's all for this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram. You can also find us online at ddindia.co.in. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.